Hey, what I'm going to show you today is how to do an oil change on a 2019 Chrysler 300 with a 3.6 Pentastar engine. Now this is the same as the Charger and the Challenger's V6 as well. Now, one thing different about this engine than lots of other engines is where the oil filter is located. On most engines these days, the oil filter is underneath and it's already in a metal type cart container. You know, it's a metal oil filter, whereas this one here it's a canister. There's a canister or a cartridge. It's a cartridge filter, and it's just the filter element with an O-ring on it, and the part number is ST11665. If you want to save some money and not buy the huge expensive name brand filters, this is just as good, and it's been proven to be just as good for a fraction of the price. Now, to take off the canister oil filter, you'll need a 15/16 socket and a ratchet to turn it. So I'll put it on there and have it ready. And I always run 100% synthetic oil, so here's the oil I'm going to run. I run SuperTech Full Synthetic because it's just as high quality as the higher Full Synthetic 5W20. High quality oil for about half the price as the Mobil 1 and the other expensive brands as well. Like this big 5-quart container of oil is about $15. So you can save a lot of money by just picking the bottom line. 100% synthetic oil. That's what I run in all my vehicles, and if they're high mileage, I run high mileage 100% synthetic oil. And a very important thing about synthetic oil is you cannot overfill it. So remember, when it comes time to filling your oil, you need to fill it just enough to hit the full line, because there's like 2 full lines. You see the cross hatches, I'll show you. Okay, we're going to look at the dipstick here. See the dipstick here? Where that first dot is, that's when it first begins to get full. The last dot, it's over full. So whatever you do, you fill it to just the beginning of those cross hatches. So just after the first dot, it's full. So you go maybe just a hair above the first dot, because when the oil heats up, it'll expand and go almost all the way to full. But you should not ever overfill the oil, because that's when you'll get gasket leaks, seal leaks on the engine, because the oil's got to go somewhere where the pressure's high. Oil's got to go somewhere, so always remember, fill it just enough to pass the first dot, then run the engine, take it for a good drive, check the stick again. It'll probably be in the middle, but if you start over full, if you start the dipstick full, it's going to overfill and you'll be over-serviced. So always remember, just go a little bit past the first dot, and when the oil expands, it'll move up the cross hatches but still be under the second dot. Because the second dot, you go past that, you've overfilled the system and high chances of seal leaks. Because you hear that myth about synthetic oil that it makes your engine have leaks. Well, that's half true. It only leaks if you overfill it. If you service it correctly and it does not expand past that second dot, you'll have no problems with synthetic oil. But it's very important you never over-service it. Okay, enough about that. We'll get to this oil change here. And as you can see from my dipstick, my oil still looks like it's a nice color, but it's been about 5,000 miles, so I'm going to change it anyway. More to follow. Okay. Alright, the next step is going to be, we're going to take off this canister and replace it with the new filter. So first, gently loosen your oil filter canister housing. Nice and easy, because you don't want to damage it. because it's made out of plastic like everything nowadays. Cheap, brittle plastic. Once you got it loose, set the wrench aside. Do the rest by hand. Here's the canister. Inspect it. You can lay it down. Now let's pull the canister out, the filter canister, and pop it out like so. And that's what the old oil filter looks like. It's about time for a change. There's what one side looks like. Here's the side that faces down. We're going to discard that filter and put in the new one. Here's the nice new filter. This part faces down. And here we go. And put it in real carefully so you don't bust the O-ring. Nice and gentle. There you go. You'll hear it pop in. Pop! Then, get a scribe. Now we're going to get a scribe and pop off the old oil seal from the canister. So here's the new O-ring that came with the new filter, and it goes right here on the canister lid. So we're going to take a scribe and take off the old O-ring. And we're going to put on the new O-ring, like so. There we go, yeah. There's where the O-ring goes, like so. Alright, there's the new O-ring. And now we screw the canister back on. Nice and gentle. And go as far by hand as you can. Then take the ratchet and gently put it back on. Gently put the canister back on. And not too tight because you don't want to break the plastic, but just good and snug. There you go. Maybe about, I'd say a few foot-pounds, not too much more. And you can save the O-ring in case you need it in a pinch. And there's the oil filter, all done and changed. Next step is we're going to jack up the front of the vehicle and drain the oil out of the system. More to follow. Next is I'm going to jack the vehicle up, and there's a solid place just right at the end of the plastic cover. So I'm going to lay this down right here and get this thing jacked up enough to put jack stands on it. It's going to take a while to jack up the front end, naturally. Here we go, because the vehicle is really low. So if you can see where I'm trying to jack, it's that solid member right by the steering rack and pinion area. Just slightly forward of that, there's a solid steel member. It's hard to see with that plastic cover, but here I am jacking it up. After I jack it up, I got to take off that plastic cover, which most of it is 10 millimeters. I'm going to take the little speed gun and remove that after I get the jack stands on the vehicle. And here's where I'm putting the jack stand, and I'm going to do the other side as well. Here's where the jack stands are, and there's where I've got the jack. After I get all the weight to rest on these two jack stands, I'm going to take off that plastic cover. More to follow. Here's the tray we got to remove. These 10mm bolts. They appear to be 10mm bolts. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Okay. Now that the tray is off, it was 4 10mm bolts. Right there. Alright, now take off the oil pan drain bolt and drain it in the oil drum. Okay, the oil pan drain bolt is a 13mm, and remove that bolt and drain it into the oil pan drain. More to follow. Okay, well, drain bolt is out, and we're draining the oil. More to follow. I usually let the oil drain for about 10 to 15 minutes. Inspect the oil drain bolt. Make sure its nice little rubber gasket is still there. If it doesn't have a rubber gasket, or if it's deteriorated, you can always put a little high-temp sealant right on the base of it to where it will prevent any small leaks. 13mm. That's the drain bolt. And pretty much reverse the process. Once I put the drain bolt back in, I'll take those 4 bolts, put that heat splash guard, then I will put about 5.5 quarts in there, then check the dipstick, run the car for about 20 minutes, get the oil hot, check the dipstick again, make sure it's right in the crosshatches but not over the crosshatches. Another important thing is when you tighten your oil pan bolt, don't tighten it that tight. Maybe about, I'll just snug it, and then just a little bit more, maybe about 50 inch-pounds roundabout, because you don't want it to be too tight, because it's a steel bolt in an aluminum pan. You go too tight, the next time you remove it, you might strip it. So just a little bit of torque, just enough to where it won't back off, but not too much to where the next time you take it off won't be too hard. So yeah, 50 to 60 inch-pounds on a torque wrench, or maybe 5 foot-pounds or so. Just not too tight. Alrighty, well, more to follow. I'm putting the shield back on. Okay, put the drain pan back on. Just 4 bolts. And I'm going to lower the jacks, then pour in the oil, and more to follow. Okay, I removed the vehicle from the jack stands, and now I'm going to start pouring oil. I'm going to go with 5 quarts, check the dipstick, and when I see the dipsticks in the hash marks, I'm going to stop, warm up the engine, drive it around a bit, get the oil hot, then add just as what's necessary to get it back up to the crosshatches. So here we go. First I'm going to wipe off the dipstick and show you where we need to be. Okay, what I'm talking about when I talk about the crosshatches, I'm talking about the area that has those crosshatch marks from the first mark to the second mark. Now the first mark in the crosshatches means you're full, and all the crosshatches means you're full. That's a full area. But the reason they have the crosshatches there is to allow for expansion. Oil gets hot, it expands. Oil gets cold, it contracts. So you always fill it right to the beginning of the crosshatches, drive it for 20-30 minutes. The oil will expand and move higher up the crosshatches, and if it ends up right here after it's hot, it's perfect. As long as it's between this point and this point, we're good. When you start getting close to that point and beyond, that's when you have to worry about leaks. So preferably after the oil expands, have it right in the middle of the crosshatches. That's a perfect fill. Because you go too high, you're taking your chances that if your oil gets really hot, it's going to expand and start busting out the seals, because the oil finds its least path of pressure resistance and will leak from it. So, middle of the crosshatches, that's what you're shooting for. Okay, I'm going to leave the dipstick out like that, so I don't have to wipe it again. Alright, first step, take off the oil cap. And I'm going to put the oil cap over here. Get the rag over here. Okay, make sure the funnel is clean. Clean from all debris and dirt and crap, because who wants dirt in their oil? We just got done draining all that stuff. Okay, there's the funnel. Also inspect your oil cap. Make sure that rubber seal's in good shape. Okay, here we go. Also, when you start the engine and run it, some oil will go into the oil filter canister, and that will also drop the dipstick a little bit. But you're also getting expansion, so it's about the same. We will see after the 20-minute drive. Okay, I'm almost got 5 quarts in there. Because I'm close, I'm going to check the stick right now just to see where we're at. Okay, so far so good. Keep pouring that 5 quarts in there to get in that crosshatch that I was talking about. Okay, there's 5 quarts. Now I'm going to check the stick. Okay, the stick is showing right almost at the crosshatch. We're almost at the crosshatch, so I'm going to give it just a tad bit more oil. Just a little bit more oil. Always have a few of these. I have another thing of 5W20 synthetic. And right about there. Pour just a little bit. Check the stick again. Okay. I just entered the crosshatch. Just entered it. I'll give it just a hair more. Okay, here we go. I added a little bit more oil. There we go. And as you can see, it's right in the middle. And I'd already run my engine for 30 minutes, so the oil is hot. And the oil is finally topped off just right to the crosshatch. It's right in the middle of the crosshatch, which is perfect. You don't feel it anymore, especially hot oil. So that means when the oil expands, that's where it gets to. So it's just perfect servicing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, especially subscribe. I need all the subscribers I can get to Mad Boosting. And have a great day.